Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. In this video is to bring you a closer look at the National Guard products number 335S. This is a mill finish aluminum automatic door bottom with a silicone insert is what this is. This is a mortise style device. We're going to cover all of those things that I just said one after another. So first of all, this is an automatic door bottom, and I'll probably end up mentioning in this video that automatic door bottoms are very elegant solutions to sealing the bottom of a door. Now the 335 by National Guard specifically is a mortise style version. The S means that it is in a silicone insert, and they also have this available in a N for neoprene, a synthetic rubber. So let's tackle these items. Let's go over the extended description, and then we'll get into all of the particulars of it. This is an automatic door bottom with a silicone insert. That's the first part there. This is available in several different lengths. This happens to be a 36-inch version. That's here. The maximum drop is 3/4 inch. We'll go over that more in a moment. This is an aluminum channel with many aluminum components. Not all aluminum, however, but mostly aluminum components. Gray silicone. Again, this is a Mortise Mount. This has several certifications, namely for smoke and draft control in UL classified category H doors. That's a reference to hotel doors. Suite doors in a hotel, those are always smoke and draft control. UL 10B for 90-minute and 3-hour. UL 10C for 90-minute and 3-hour. Acoustically tested, air infiltration tested, ANSI and BHMA certified, and is a very common item. This is also typical for use where you have a threshold, and we'll go over that in a moment. And they do recommend that you use a nylon brush version. Should you have a very irregular floor surface like carpet, or a situation that you do not have a threshold, or if you have a very grooved sort of threshold, you might want a bristle style there as well. All right, let's get into it. We'll tackle it all one at a time. Now, first and foremost, this is a Mortise Mount. There are in the world of automatic door bottoms, of which there is a link below this video to a document called Product Brochure, and it really just shows you this and their immediate sister product to it, the 225. There are mortise style that are intended to go into wood doors like this. There is the hollow metal style, which is on that link to the product brochure, that is not mortise, because typical hollow metal doors have an inverted bottom channel that the design of the hollow metal style of mortised automatic door bottom fits up inside of, and its maximum drop is based on a standard, industry standard undercut for hollow metal doors, which is 3/4 inch. So you've got mortise, then you've got surface mount. Well, that's obvious, that's self-explanatory. It mounts right on the face of the door. Then you've got a semi-recess, and that's where you take a surface mount, and they're not always the same item, but generally they are, and you route the face of the door so that the door bottom sits flush to the face of the door, giving a very nice, clean appearance. For the purposes of this video, we're going to focus on the mortise style. So this is a type that you're going to literally mortise or have mortised the bottom of your door. You're going to need to mortise it to the proper width and the proper depth for the housing. There is an image below this video showing the important dimensional properties of the item, and let's go over that now. You can see that it specifically states your mortise is to be 5/8 wide by 1 9/16 deep. So the channel itself, you can see that it's just heavy on a 1/2 inch. Not quite 9/16, but right in there. They want 5/8. That makes sense. Then you can see that the overall depth of the unit, about 1.5 inches, and they're asking for 1 9/16. That will give you an ever small but required amount of adjustment to fit the housing inside the routed bottom of the door and not crimp or otherwise prevent the proper operation of the unit. I've mortised for automatic door bottoms countless times. It's very simple and straightforward to do. You generally, however, need the tool for doing it. So If you are ordering this unit for a door that you're having manufactured, it's really not your concern. Your door manufacturer will do that. You might likely need to provide them with a template or this cross-section drawing. If it is a fire-rated door, an existing fire-rated door, you absolutely cannot mortise the bottom of the door. It would certainly, A, destroy the integrity of a fire-rated door, B, violate the fire rating of the door because of A, and that's how you would go about that. If it's a new door, fire rated, even if it's 20-minute, or just smoke and draft control, that preparation has to be done in the proper facility that has been listed for doing that sort of machining. So if it's an existing fire door, look for a surface mount model. If it's not, then mortise is perfect. If you're going to do it yourself, okay, no problem. Generally, how I've done it, if I've not had, a CNC router for doing it, I would just use a large, a decent horsepower, horse and a half plunge router, something in that range. 5/8 wide on the requirement. That's unusual to have a 2-flute carbide, long cutting edge. Well, not necessarily long cutting edge, but long 5/8. If I had a half of an inch, which is very typical, I would obviously make my pass and then reposition and to get my 5/8 size. So you'll need a 2-flute carbide bit long enough for getting your 1 9/16 in. What I've done is with that router is I would have a specialty base that I would have clamped to at an L angle, just an aluminum angle, that would be properly sanded and buffed and protected. And I'll get to that purpose in a moment. Bolted to the bottom of my round router base so that when I took the router and tipped it down, the flat face of that router guide is going to be on the top of the door, and that's where the preparation comes in to not score or damage the face of your door, because your router will be going into the end and you'll be sliding it across. You don't want any burrs to gouge the face of the door. Anything will do that. We will always put masking tape, onto the fence itself, is what it would be called. You'd have that fence or the guide bolted to the center line, bolted to your router base in such a way that it will give you the proper center line, and you might even get real fancy and come up with slotted holes where you can kick that guide over, etc. There are people that manufacture pre-made router bases for doing this sort of work that you can certainly look into, and if you're doing one, you're going to have to come up with some sort of template guide or fence guide in order to do this. But that's the realm of the carpenter, journeyman, sort of fella woodworker who will end up doing that without any sort of hesitation. So you need to get that mortise done, and you need to get it done properly for proper operation. You will need to have that mortise go all the way through the door. You'll breach it on both sides. You'll obviously need to be quite careful when you're doing that. What I do when I do it is I will get masking tape over both sides so that when my router bit kind of leaves the end of the door, it will minimize the flare out or the tear out of wood. Not to be so drastically concerned, because jumping a little bit ahead, end caps are included with this, and there are two, and we'll go over why there's two different ones. We'll go over why that's the case in a moment. So mortising for this item is relatively simple and straightforward. If you don't have a router and have never done that sort of work in the past, you might just want to skip over the mortise mount. Not that it can't be done, it's just there's an investment in time and machinery to get the job properly done. So you might just, or find a wood shop that can do it for you. If that's the case, move to a surface mount. Now, the net size of this that you're going to order is specifically related to the fact that this is a mortised style. A surface mount is going to be mounted on the push side of the door, and therefore it needs to reside between the space of the door stops, whereas a mortise mount doesn't. It resides between the space of the rabbets of the frame. So, generally what I do in an instance like this is I would not take my nominal door size if you have a 3-foot door. Well, what is 3 foot? Is that the nominal size? Is it the net size? Speaking from the installation of a hollow metal frame and a wood door that's installed, you might have a 3-foot wide opening. Well, your frame is 3 foot, 36 inch, but your door is going to be 35 and 13/16, 35 and 3/4. Now, if it's a residential application, you very likely could have a full 36-inch wide door, but then the inside opening of your frame will be 36 1/4. So keep that in mind. You need to measure that door width. Then to complicate it even further, do you have square edges on the doors, or are they 3-degree bevel? What I do is measure the width of the door on both sides, the push side and the pull side, and I'll split the difference certainly. And I might even go a 1/16 of an inch bigger to account for the fact that the door is beveled, and then I would just file that ever so slightly if it was even required, and it really wouldn't be. It would depend on how much time and energy and desire I had to make that perfect beyond concern of anyone. So your net door width is what's important for this style. Okay, that's how you're going to go about ordering it. Now, this is in the website in several different lengths, but they're 18 to 48 inch on 2-inch increments. Well, that it really isn't necessarily of any help whatsoever, because it would be quite unusual that your door would actually measure those sizes. Now, I'm a strong advocate of having the factory cut the material to the size that you need. The reason is this. First of all, they're cutting these parts and they're making them per order every time. Sure, they probably have 3-footers already made, ready to go, that sort of stuff. But you're going to end up having to trim this down almost all the time. If you were to order it a custom length, and the way that you go about doing that is by ordering the next longest piece or pieces and indicate in the comment field what length you want us to cut the material back to. The reasoning is the factory will make it to that size. You will notice that there is this end here that is visually different than this end here, and we're going to talk a lot about that in a moment. It's easy to cut this wrong. It's easy to cut it and damage it. So if you ordered it from the factory, you would avoid the risk of damaging it or cutting it wrong, or cutting it wrong and damaging it. The factory gets that sort of stuff correct. They're set up to do it. It lessens the time on site as well. Let's say you've got a job where you're doing 50 of these. Absolutely, you're going to want them cut to length. Get those doors unhung, get these items installed, adjusted, and be done with it. It could be a situation where the job site's 200 miles away and it doesn't, and you've got 2 of them to do. You're not going to make that trip. You will cut them. We're going to go over the cutting procedure shortly. So back to the fact that you've got 2 different ends here. You'll notice that there's a bolt sticking out of this side. Ignore the fact that the silicone runs long. That's normal. You're going to leave it run a little bit long, but you'll nonetheless trim it at the very final portion of your installation. Now, the end with the bolt, that's always the hinge side of the door. Always. Just think of it as the hinge side of the door. That's the side that you install towards the hinges. This is the lock side of the door, therefore. Now, automatic door bottoms are elegant. Why? Well, because, especially this one, it's concealed, you never see it. They're also elegant because they seal the bottom of the door only when the door is closed. That's elegant because there's no dragging of anything over a surface, concrete, a threshold, a high polished wood floor, whatever the case might be. This is only sealing when you push the door finally closed. That allows you to have an incredibly long life expectancy out of the silicone material because there's no abrasion that's happening. Okay, that makes it a very elegant sort of solution. A situation is this: you've got a door sweep or a residential door bottom that's been stapled to the bottom of a door, and that's very typical and common as well. You will see that you are in a situation where you've stapled or nailed something to the bottom of the door to seal it. Kid leaves a shoe in front of the door, speaking from actual experience. Well, the parent comes home, opens up the garage door runs over the top of the shoe or the sandal, and you destroy or damage part of the door bottom. It's not the case with an automatic door bottom. This is safely tucked up into the housing every time that you get the door open. So that's an elegant solution for this. Now, furthermore, not every sill is level. Not every door is plumb. What happens with these, when the door is closed, keeping that in mind, this bolt, or we'll call it a plunger, when this is installed on the hinge side and that door makes the closing cycle, that will, sooner or later, in the very end of the closing cycle, make contact with the frame. And the door is pushed all the way closed. That has nowhere to go but in. when it goes in, it forces the bottom to drop, and it does drop down unevenly like that, and that is by design. My thumb is going to act as the sill that it will make contact with. When my thumb restricts the door bottom, it will drop the rest of the end down. Okay? Now that's elegant because that unlevel sill. This will contour itself within reason to a sill that's not level. Very common, something that a door sweep cannot do. Obviously not to a wavy sort of bottom, but something that has got a small pitch to it, or something that's not level, or a door that the concrete pad that changes with the seasons. In the winter, that water is down in that concrete pad below the driveway and lifts it all up a little bit. Different condition. That is a situation where an automatic door bottom works spectacular, because in that winter time you open the door and you've got snow and ice and the concrete pad is lifted a little bit. Your door might scrape the bottom, and any door sweep that you attach to there doesn't work. Automatic door bottom solves that sort of problem too. So, not that you would use this style for that sort of scenario, but the surface mount idea applies to that as well. Now, that means that the bolt side is always the hinge side. You never cut the hinge side. You would only trim this side. Now, there is a link below this video to a document called installation instructions. Door bottoms 3 foot or longer can be field trimmed up to 4 inch. Shorter than 3 foot, you have to order it from the factory, the net size. There's really no trim that's permissible, because inside of here what happens when that bolt is compressed, pushed in I should say, it compresses a flat spring and forces it to belly. Well, that bellying action of the flat spring forces that drop bar to drop down. You can't see the flat spring assembly in there. Well, you can, I suppose, a little bit, but that's how that works. So you can trim it in the field provided it's 3 foot or longer. You can if it's smaller. Keep that in mind. The link to the installation instructions, now that's handy because it goes through the brief steps. Cut the door bottom to the exact net width of the door. Do not extend the drop bar while cutting. Do not trim from the end with the adjusting rod. Maximum cut on the bottoms is 4 foot when you're at 36 or greater. Anything less than that you cannot field trim. Step 2, mortise the door bottom. You'll notice that there's an 11/16 dimension there, which is not 5/8. 11/16 will be fine as well. All you have to be sure is that you can fit the housing in comfortably and not blow through where these screws are going to be located. Okay. Install the door bottom with the adjusting rod at the hinge side. Set the adjusting rod for the proper seal. Now, when you get the door routed, this unit attached, cut to length, attached, turn that clockwise. You'll need a screwdriver, it's slotted. The more that you turn it clockwise, it draws the bar into the housing. Get that turned clockwise so it sticks out just maybe 1/8 of an inch. When you get the door hung again, immediately begin to test it. The amount of projection of this is directly related to the amount of drop, and you'll immediately start to determine, oh, okay, I need to turn that counterclockwise to get more drop happening. You want the seal, the drop bar, to be making contact with the threshold, but not with undue strain on the spring, because as soon as you start to open the door, you want that drop bar to begin to be retracted back up into the housing. If you don't, if you've got that bolt sticking out too far, the door is going to be moving and the drop bar is still going to be hanging and scraping on the bottom of the door, of the floor, I should say. So that's why I like to turn that in so that I'm not already having too much drop occur. Maximum drop is 3/4 inch. Keep that in mind, that your undercut from the bottom of this unit to whatever you're going to seal against, 3/4 inch is the max. Now, those 2 end plates I had shown you earlier, they're in clear anodized aluminum. Obviously the one with the hole is for the hinge side. That's going to cap right over that. Okay, finish that off real nice. There will be screws for installing everything. Okay, now there is another piece of aluminum. This gets attached to the frame, provided it's a wood frame, exactly at the point where the adjusting rod or the plunger is going to make contact. You don't want this to, over time, divot your wood frame. Every time this makes contact, it's going to be putting a lot of pressure on it. So you'll install that portion on the frame. And that is pretty much the balance. That is all of the installation instructions. That link to the product brochure is somewhat handy. There are many other models of automatic door bottoms, and I'll tell you where to find those in a moment. As I had said earlier, I believe automatic door bottoms to be incredibly elegant solutions. I am partial to National Guard products. It's because there are items, you get the impression that they're well made. And what I mean by that in this case, and I don't see it often, but in the end here, there's a little dab of silicone right there. Just a dab of it, holding that silicone in from moving, because over time it will shift and slide a little bit. That sort of fit and finish, that step above and beyond, is something that is inherent to National Guard. They do that because that silicone will move a little bit, and the truth of the matter is you really can't easily get in there and crimp that aluminum extrusion over. So it's a process by which I believe they separate the quality of their product from others. Not only the quality of their product, but the quality of their customer service, their technical support, and their industry-leading ship times. Speaking about how to find other automatic door bottoms from National Guard and all of their products, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up that full-line National Guard product catalog and review all things from them, not only automatic door bottoms, but thresholds, door sweeps, perimeter gasketing, material made of aluminum like this, stainless steel, architectural bronze, and they have a comprehensive offering of very high-quality steel vision frames for use in wood and metal doors. If you have any questions on the National Guard, number 335S, Mortise style automatic door bottom, or any other National Guard product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you very much.